Hey everyone, we're going to talk about removing the flow sensor as well as a cup sensor on a newer bottoms up valve. So if you have a system that was installed in 2024 or on, you're going to have a valve that looks kind of like this with this singular piece that needs to be removed. You can tell that your flow sensor is failing by doing a little bit of troubleshooting. You'll notice that when you program a cup size, everything works fine, then you go to pour it and it may just flow out a little bit, or the sizes are totally off. And what can be happening is that inside here there's this lower turbine there that will rotate. It's being read by a sensor that's in here that we need to swap out. There's either something faulty with the wiring in there, some other issue. Since we're going to be opening up a valve on the dispenser, we want to make sure there's no liquid left in it. So I've already done this process on the kegerator. You can untap the keg and you put the system into manual override, prime, purge mode, whatever you want to call it. With all three buttons are lit up by pressing the small and medium button together, push down on this, and you can press that, and that'll shoot out any excess liquid, any other pressure you might have going on. You can also, in the process, just turn off the dispenser if you want to. Not totally necessary. You just hold the L button for a second or so and it'll turn off. Once you've done that, you can take off your coupler. What we're going to be doing is unscrewing the case nut here. And once we do that, we're actually going to be kind of pulling down a little bit on the valve assembly itself, and to get a better view of this sensor piece on this brass block here. So to remove your case nut, you just take a large adjustable wrench, and you'll see that the case nut has two kind of flat edges, and you can put your wrench to. Just be careful of your LEDs. You don't want to bust those in the process. You can also take I believe it's 1 1/4 inch size socket, kind of loosen that. Once the case nut is pretty loose, I like to take a paper towel and grab the case nut. The threads on this are pretty fine and they can be pretty sharp. Just give that a little yoink. With that out, you can tip back your dispenser, and you should have a nice little kickstand provided. You can hold that up like so. And so from here, we just want to kind of grab this blue block. I'll move this in a little closer for you. There we go. Grab this blue block here. We're just going to kind of pull down. So you might be able to see there's this copper pipe back here, and the brass block has this nice groove that pipe is held into, so it's kind of snapped in place. So it should be able to rotate up and down. That's what we're going to do with this, just like so. You can kind of feel the kind of max play in it. All right, so with this pulled down about as far as it's going to go, what we want to do is there are two small Phillips screws right here that we want to mess with. I'm going to go ahead and unplug the bottom block, the solenoid here. There we go, just give you a little bit more view of what we're looking for. And again, this is what we're looking at. So we're going to be unscrewing this, and this whole assembly will kind of pop off or slide off. It's a nice groove right here in the block. So if you have a smaller Phillips screwdriver, that's what you're going to want to use. And there should be just enough room, turn that block in here, just enough room around this solenoid to get those tiny screws out. Once you got those loosened, this just kind of pops and slides out just like that. So we're going to be still connected at the circuit board here. So you can kind of just follow the cup sensors on top. That's going to be our blue, and our cup sensors on top. That's our blue cord here. And the flow sensor is our red over here, so we want to disconnect those. You can use your, save these screws first. There we go. Hang. Go ahead and disconnect those just by taking your screwdriver, pushing down on the attachment, getting it loose that way. Here's what the back of that piece looks like. This is our flow sensor here. Notice that there's just a nice groove for this to fit into. You can take your new flow sensor, slide it into place here. There we go, fits snugly. Same with the cup sensor here. It's got these two little parts that can just pull out. There's a nice little shim here that helps with the magnetic boost. Put your replacement and snap it into place into there. So what we need to do is going to be fitting this piece back onto the brass block. There's a groove, like a slot machined out right here in the center of it. And you might be able to see a side profile a little better here. But we're going to be just sliding it into place and then putting the screws on and getting it secured down. So having to work around all the different cables and the insulation here. We want to get the flow sensor edge lined up with that groove. And just kind of feel it line up into place. And then you can take your screws and get those into place. I kind of like to hit it from with both hands because they're small screws and can fall into a crevice pretty easily. I don't know if you can see from the angle or not, but it takes a little bit of finagling. There we go. And just take your small screwdriver, get those snug, then go ahead and plug back in. There is a dot on the underside of the circuit board on each side for your blue and red connections. But if you're looking at it, blue is on the left, red is on the right. Once you got those plugged in, go ahead and plug your solenoid back in if you unplugged it. Then we need to push our housing back up. And we're going to kind of hold and finagle this as we're screwing the case nut back on as well. So from here, I like to have one hand underneath on the valve to kind of help align it. And then take the case nut. And we've got this little flow guide right here. It's got 3 edges, and we kind of want to make sure there's a lined up for what we're going to do. So I can just kind of start the far one, make sure it gets popped into place, and then we just need to tighten this. Again, this is where you could use a glove, you could use a paper towel, just to kind of prevent your hands from getting all scratched up. And you kind of want to simultaneously push down. Sometimes you can go counterclockwise, just to kind of help it seat. This can definitely be a tricky part, making sure everything is lined up. You kind of feel it snug into place. Once you got that, then you can just take your adjustable wrench, or it's really handy if you have an 1 1/4 inch socket. Get that nice and snug. And you don't need to be super tight on this. Kind of just a little bit past good and snug. If you do it too tight, essentially gum things up. You could potentially break the threads on there and cause a bunch of downstream problems in the end. You got everything back together, go ahead and turn your dispenser back on, and you can go ahead and test it. Program a size first, holding the M or size button, pushing down on that until it fills. You notice the light is flashing, that means that the sensor is being read. Then put your glass down, and make sure it gets to your fill level. You'll notice the light there flashing, that means the sensor is being read, and you're good to roll.